Learning runes would help the other party enter a learning state quickly. In such a state, the learning speed would be very fast. But it was far from enough. It was like a student encountering a difficult problem. No matter how hard he thought, he could not figure it out. At this time, no matter how good his learning ability was, it would be useless. Only after his comprehension ability had been improved could he overcome the difficult problem in front of him and continue to learn. Therefore, not only did he need to learn runes, but he also needed to comprehend runes. Lu softly said, "Comprehend." The purple rune shadow instantly condensed. Comprehension meaning understand, awaken. After silently thinking for a while, the comprehension rune condensed in Lu's mind. The appearance of this comprehension rune had a direct effect. It didn't need to be used passively, but could be activated on its own initiative. Lu felt that his consciousness had become clearer, and he understood many things that he hadn't understood before. His thoughts moved at a rapid speed, and he maintained a very clear state of mind at all times. Impressive. Lu sighed. Comprehending the runes seemed to have raised his intelligence to an unimaginable level. There were almost no problems that could trouble him. He only needed a glance to see through the essence of things. With the help of comprehending runes, Lu also understood that there were still many flaws in his assassination of Berg. If he were to assassinate Berg again, it would definitely be faster and more perfect. Moreover, there was not only one assassination plan, but there were many ways to successfully assassinate Berg and successfully escape. At the same time, his understanding of the use of other runes had also improved a lot. Previously, his understanding of the use of runes had been too shallow. He had only known how to use runes in one direction. It was as though he was a primitive man. He held a stone in his hand and could only use it to smash wild beasts. He did not know how to use it to grind tools and weapons. However, at this moment, his understanding of runes had improved a lot. It was still very limited. After all, he had not received any systematic training in runes. However, his strength was much stronger than before. In the past, using runes had required a process of thinking. Now, using runes had already reached an instinctive state. An ordinary person would need a very long time to reach this state. The problem was not only that one needed to understand the runic ability in the heart, but more importantly, it required a long time of training. And Lu had only taken half an hour. One could imagine how great the benefits of comprehension could be. This is comprehension? What a wonderful state, Lu sighed softly. At this moment, the horizon had already lit up. Unknowingly, another night had passed. The dawn is so fast. Thinking about it carefully, he had spent most of last night teaching Claire runes. Just to let her understand the profound meaning of runes and try all kinds of methods took a lot of time. By the time it was over, it was already late at night. Then, he condensed and comprehended runes and experienced the power of runes. In the blink of an eye, the sky had turned dark. He had never thought that teaching someone to learn runes would be such a time-consuming and stamina-consuming thing. Lu muttered, "Oh Claire, you've taken so much of my time. If you don't become a world-famous big shot in the future, you'll disappoint me too much." Standing outside, Lu chuckled. He was finally leaving this damned place. His mood instantly improved. Young master, don't sell Claire. Claire will definitely work hard." Her voice came from the next room. Lu gently opened the door and saw Claire curled up under the blanket like an injured little beast. She kept talking in her sleep, "Don't hit my master." "No, 1,000 gold coins. Master bought me with 1,000 gold coins." What master said must be right. The salary is the most handsome in the world. You must work hard to take care of master. Hearing her dream talk, Yane could not help but laugh. It seemed that he had not treated her well for nothing. She was still thinking about him in her dream. Claire's mood fluctuated greatly. Yesterday's experience had been a great change for her. It would be normal for her to have some thoughts during the day and some dreams at night. Lu covered her with the quilt that had slipped off her body and walked out quietly. After eating a little the next morning, they began to buy the things they needed on the road. The streets were still chaotic in the capital of Simon Empire. How are we gonna get through this without some emergency supplies? Luckily, Lu had a lot of room. He bought meat, vegetables, rice, noodles, seasoning, even the pots and pans. He had never felt safe since the transition, and had bought enough supplies for him and Claire to eat for months. Moreover, the runic space was a vacuum environment. No matter how long things were in there, the food would not spoil. Along the way, Lu also bought some books. Some were prepared for Claire, and some were prepared for himself. Although the bookseller only had one basic knowledge book, which was not of much use to him, he would have to do something on such a long journey. Reading books could at least pass some time. After that, he bought some clothes for Claire to change into. After all this, the sun had already risen high in the sky, and it was another sunny day. After buying everything, Lu sighed helplessly. Sigh, who would be a young master like me? It's too long. I have to quickly train Claire. I'll let her do all these messy chores in the future. Back at the Dawn Inn, Rexton, Lorca, and Vivian were already waiting for him outside the inn. Each of them had 7 or 8 servants with 5 or 6 carriages behind them. Seeing this scene, Vivian lampooned weakly. Those who know are also going to the Illumination Empire for the assessment. Those who don't know will think that these people are going to move. However, even though she lampooned, she could understand. Not everyone could have a portable space. There was nothing they could do about the daily necessities that had to be pulled by carriages. Young Master Knight, we're waiting for you. Rexton had already told everyone about Lu's new name. Lorca looked at Lu and smiled. If you trigger it in the morning, you might be able to reach the divine sight by night. Sorry to keep you waiting. After chatting with them for a while, Lu went back to her room to look for Claire. Claire quickly ran out after opening the door. A happy smile appeared on her face. There were still wet tears in her big eyes. Lu looked at the tears at the corner of her eyes. He patted her head and handed her the breakfast in his hand. Hurry up and eat. We'll be going out soon. Yes, young master. Claire smiled as she held the breakfast. Her gaze did not leave Lu for even a moment. After she had woken up and he realized that the young master had actually disappeared, she immediately panicked. She was like a thin man who could not see his master. Everything was so fearful. She thought that the young master did not want her anymore. Only when she knew that Lu had returned, did she completely relax. The young master told her to eat plenty. As for where she would go on this long trip, it did not matter. Anyway, she would go wherever her salary went. Lu did not have many things in the room to begin with. He just needed to tidy up a little. He looked at Claire, who was looking at him. Lu chuckled and said, "Why are you still crying? Do you think that I don't want you anymore? Wouldn't it be a loss if I don't want you? I spent 10,000 gold coins to buy you." They lowered their heads and ate together, not daring to speak. At that time, she was new and panicked when she hadn't seen young master. How could she have thought of this? "Young master, I was wrong," Claire whispered. "Yes. It's good that you know your mistake," Lu said casually. "The journey is a long one. You'll have to work hard. I'm still waiting for you to take care of me." "Young master, I will work hard," Claire answered seriously. After eating, Claire went downstairs and saw that the carriage he had bought yesterday was already parked outside. The young lady at the front desk was drawing something. When she saw Lu come down, she held the thing in her hand and said with a smile, "Young Master Knight, take care." "Thank you." Looking at her, Claire said with a smile, "Aren't you also going to the Shijiao Empire with your master? When are you leaving?" "In the next few days. My lady is still in secluded meditation, and she'll leave after she comes out." She smiled and said, "I wonder if I'll be able to see young master again when we reach." "I think so." They exchanged some pleasantries before Lu and Claire walked out of the Dawn Inn. Claire was stunned by what she saw as she looked at the endless carriages. Rexton walked over and said in a low voice, "Knight, I knew that you hadn't prepared anything, so I've already prepared all of the daily necessities for you." "Thank you, Rexton. Hey, you're still treating us like strangers." Lorca, Vivian, and the others came over to exchange a few pleasantries. Rexton waved his hand. "Let's go." The carriage pulled onto the street, attracting the attention of many people. Everyone knew that their destination was the Illumination Empire. It was just that they did not know how many people would be able to enter the Rune Academy this year. Outside the Dawn Inn, the young lady looked at the site for a while before reluctantly returning to the front desk. She held a pen and paper and kept drawing. It was a portrait. The outline of the figure on it became clearer and clearer. It was Lu. "What are you drawing?" Shortly, a familiar voice sounded from outside the door. She looked up and smiled. Miss Camia, you're here. Brittany, is Elizabeth still in seclusion? Camia walked in and asked with a smile. When she had returned home yesterday, she had not expected to hear the Queen's shrill scream in the afternoon. She did not know what had happened, but she knew that the Queen's mood at the moment was terrible, so it was very likely that she would be blamed. She could not delay any longer. After dealing with the matters at home, she went to the Dawn Inn to see if Elizabeth had come out of seclusion. Then, they could go to the Illumination Empire together. Not yet, Brittany smiled and said, but it will only be for 2 days. Since Miss is going to participate in the Rune School assessment, she won't miss it. When she thought about how she could leave the Simon Empire in 2 days, she was very happy. She had stayed in this lousy place long enough and was extremely bored. Unfortunately, young Master Knight had already left. She had originally wanted him to go along with them. When Camia heard her words, she smiled and said, Elizabeth will participate in the assessment early. Remember to inform me when she comes out of seclusion. Elizabeth, the #1 goddess of the Dawn Empire. Not only was Elizabeth outstanding in looks and beauty, but her cultivation talent was also extremely terrifying. Moreover, her personality and Camia's were very compatible. After a while, the two of them had become good sisters who spoke about everything. After coming to the Simon Empire this time, other than Camia, Elizabeth did not meet anyone else. The outside world did not know much about her, but Camia knew how amazing Elizabeth's talent was. A single walking rune had allowed her to successfully traverse the 9 great empires at a young age. She had even gone to the heavenly battlefield several times. Her cultivation had even reached the level of a 3-star rune master. She had condensed more than 10 high-grade runes. However, such a genius was only 15 years old this year, and there were still 3 years before the minimum age limit for the Rune Academy. It was hard to imagine how terrifying Elizabeth would be with her talent. Then, even the geniuses in the academy wouldn't be able to compare to her. And this year, she's only 15 years old. How monstrous is her talent? If she were to take the assessment when she turns 18, the beauty rankings and the genius rankings, no one would be able to compete with her. But if she were to take the assessment in front of the court, the commotion that would be caused would definitely not be laughed at. If she was in the same era as Ike, then she would be the only existence that could compete with her on the genius rankings and the beauty rankings. Don't worry, Miss Camia. I'll inform you personally when the time comes, Brittany smiled and said. The Miss did not have many friends to begin with. Camia was the one who had the best relationship with her. Camia nodded and looked at the picture on the counter. She smiled and said, when I came in just now, I saw what you were drawing. Can I take a look? Sure. Brittany handed the painting over. Camia was stunned. The person in the painting. Was that B** starred? Brittany knew this B** starred? How did she know this B** starred? Camia realized that her emotions were a little temporal. She took a deep breath to calm himself down and said in a casual tone, the painting is pretty good. Brittany, your painting skills are pretty good. Who is the person in the painting? Young Master Knight. Brittany smiled and said, when young Master Knight first came to the hotel, many people thought of him as the 13th prince of the Shijiao Empire. At that time, I thought so too. I only found out yesterday that he came from the battlefield of the heavens. So that B** starred's name is young Master Knight. What a strange name. And he came from the battlefield of the heavens. No wonder his strength is so terrifying and abnormal. He's staying at the Dawn Inn? Camia's voice was trembling. He was staying here. Should she go and see him? But what name should she use to see him? After all, they had separated yesterday. They had been so resolute and said that they would not disturb each other. She also thought that she absolutely did not want to have any more interactions with him. At this moment, her heart was in a mess. Yes, he's been staying at the Dawn Inn for the past few days. Brittany sighed softly, but he left this morning, I'm afraid. Left this the morning? Camia's heart suddenly sank. She had thought it through during the night. If she saw him again, she would open her heart and chat with him. She wanted to let him know that there was a reason for her original appearance. It was because of the love runes that she had no choice but to maintain that cold appearance. She was only waiting for one person, and that person was him. As she was feeling a little flustered, Brittany continued, originally I had thought that when Miss comes out of seclusion, I would be able to go to the Illumination Empire with young Master Knight. but has already gone. What a pity. Wait, he went to the Illumination Empire? Kamiya's originally somewhat gloomy mood suddenly became cheerful and joyful. The change in her mood made her love runes flicker non-stop. At this moment, she could not control her mood at all. She really liked the feeling of joy at this moment. There was only one thought in her heart. She would be able to see that boss start when she went to the Illumination Empire. If he suddenly appeared in front of her and gave her a scare, it would definitely be fun. Although Kamiya was extremely intelligent, she was still a young girl. The type of girls who fell in love were all the same. The change in her state of mind made her smile. I'm serious. Master Knight is the first person I've seen in all these years with impeccable temperament, demeanor, and looks. Brittany cupped her chin and said softly, Kamiya, you know about the miss. Sigh, I'm so worried. I feel that Master Knight and our young lady are quite compatible. What does that mean? You want your young lady to snatch my man? Not only do you not understand him, but you don't understand your young lady. Kamiya said softly, for such matters, I think it's better to let fate take its course. Don't act recklessly. If your young lady hears about it, she will definitely be very unhappy. Alright, the main reason was, she did not want other women to think about her man, even if they were good sisters. Just as she finished speaking, a clear voice sounded, I am indeed unhappy. Then, from the direction of the cultivation room, a girl of about 15 or 16 years old walked over. She was wearing light green clothes. There was no makeup on her face, but she was astonishingly beautiful. She was like an angel. In 2 or 3 years, it was hard to imagine how beautiful she would be. This girl was really Brittany's Miss Elizabeth. Miss, you've come out of seclusion? Brittany smiled and ran over. Elizabeth smiled and said, Brittany, you're very brave. You actually dared to arrange a man for me? Brittany stuck out her tongue. Elizabeth looked at Kamiya, walked over and hugged her. She smiled and said, Kamiya still smells good. What's so good about smelly men? Kamiya's body stiffened. It meant nothing when she had been hugged by Elizabeth in the past. But now, it felt strange. She pinched Elizabeth's face and said with a smile, since you've come out of seclusion, let's set off for the Illumination Empire tomorrow. Alright. Elizabeth nodded with a smile. On the other side, Lu and the rest of the convoy advanced slowly. They arrived at a place that even Lu was shocked by. He looked at the ruins outside and his heart trembled. These are the divine ruins? The so-called divine ruins in the rune world referred to the ruins left behind by the ancient gods. Lu was almost completely stunned. His eyes widened as he looked at the ruins of the gods around him in disbelief. What kind of ancient gods' ruins were they? They were clearly the ruins of a large city in the era of technology. Lu saw collapsed glass buildings and all kinds of concrete and steel buildings. Inside the carriage, he was shocked. In his subconscious mind, he had always thought that this was another world. He had never thought that this would be Earth. After leaving the Simon Empire and seeing such a situation, his thoughts immediately pulled back to that era. If the English of the rune masters in this world could be considered a coincidence, then the ruins of these modern cities showed many problems. Runes were the words of the ancient gods in this world. Perhaps for the rune era, the era of technology that Lu came from was the ancient era. At the same time, Lu also remembered some information about this world. The education system of this world was similar to the era of technology. There were primary schools, junior high schools, but universities became rune schools. This title came from the era of technology. These signs indicated that this was very likely the Earth. However, it was no longer Lu's era, but Earth many years later. In his mind, he couldn't help but think of a sci-fi movie he had once seen, Time Travel to the Future. He could also be considered to have traveled to the future, right? It was just that unlike the content of the movie, he had woken up and was already in the future. However, in the movie, because the Earth's population was too large and resources were insufficient, causing a series of social problems, in order to solve the problem of resources, a scientist developed a time travel machine. The protagonist then traveled to the future with the time travel machine. The future was already different from the past. Not only did it not have the dazzling technological civilization that the protagonist imagined, but it went back to the primitive early human society. There was no civilization there. Even if there was no technological civilization, There would not be a systematic civilization in the future. However, a different culture was born. Some humans had powerful spiritual power and could use spiritual power to interfere with reality. These people who possessed strong spiritual power were treated as gods and worshipped by humans. Although the content of the movie and the Rune world were very different, they had one thing in common. When the technological civilization was highly developed, it did not take a step further to form an interstellar civilization and cross the galaxy. Instead, at the peak of the civilization, the human desire also reached its peak and a great war broke out. In the end, due to the battle formation, the human race. For a time, civilization had regressed to the era of primitive society. However, in the movie, it was still in the early stages of the birth of civilization. Meanwhile, the Rune world had already produced a systematic and powerful civilization, the Rune civilization. When he thought of this, Lu, who had come from the era of technological civilization, felt an inexplicable sadness in his heart. Although he was not in that era, he still had family and friends that he cared about in that era. Unfortunately, thousands of years had passed between them. Moreover, he had never expected that the incomparably great technological civilization would actually become extinct. "Young master, are you all right?" Claire looked at Lu with a somewhat sad expression and came to his side to look at him with concern. "I'm fine." Lu smiled and patted her little head. "I'm just thinking about the past." As he said that, he was still thinking about things. In the past, even in an era where technology was extremely advanced, there were many things that could not be explained with technology. For example, Atlantis at the bottom of the sea. It was said that the people living in Atlantis were all demigods and had a highly developed civilization. Everyone had a long lifespan and a strong body. But for some unknown reason, they had disappeared from the mainland overnight. There were also the tombs of the first emperor of Qin in China, the pyramids in Egypt, the Mayan civilization in America, the Bermuda Triangle, and many other unexplainable phenomena. At that time, the gods that humans believed in were the gods in the West, the Buddha in the East, Odin, the father of the gods in Northern Europe, Zeus, the lord of the gods in Greece. At that time, there were also records of gods on Earth, but no one had seen them with their own eyes. If it had been in the past, Lu might have thought that these were all imaginary illusions, but now he could accept such an idea. The once technological world was treated as an ancient civilization, and the humans who mastered the power of technology were treated as ancient gods by the Rune world. This proved that before the technological civilization, industrial civilization, and feudal civilization, there should have been even greater civilizations. It was just that this civilization had also developed to the peak, and in the end, it had died out for unknown reasons. It was just like the technological civilization had gone into decline due to the problem of resources. Moreover, Earth had a history of several billion years. Perhaps there was more than one such massive civilization, and perhaps there were many such civilizations, but they all died out one by one in the long river of history. Civilizations continued to perish, but they also continued to be reborn, as if they were in a cycle of reincarnation. The current Rune era was the beginning of a new civilization, and this was a replay of another civilization. Why did this happen? Why did different civilizations end up dying? Could it be that there was some great secret? He didn't know, but his heart was already filled with fear. Was the destruction of these civilizations a natural development, or was there a mysterious force controlling it from behind? If the second reason was the case, how terrifying and powerful would the owner of the power be? "Fix yourself on the spot." A voice came from outside, pulling Lu back from his thoughts. All the carriages stopped, causing Lu to pause his thoughts. What nonsense are you thinking? Maybe this isn't Earth, but a parallel world similar to Earth. The idea of a civilization reenacting this is too big. Lu shook his head and laughed. He was really thinking too much. Right now, he still did not know much about the Rune world, so it was not too late to think about these questions later. Rexton's voice came from outside the carriage. "Lu, come down and rest. Eat something." "Okay," Lu replied. Hearing the young master agree, Claire hurriedly got down from the carriage. Then, she tiptoed and pulled the chain. She said in a low voice, "Young master, it's dark. Be careful." "Little smart ass." Lu smiled and rubbed her hair. His mood was much better. No matter what this world was like, it was more important to improve his own strength now. Without strength, it was useless to think too much. Strength was the foundation of standing in this world. Everything else was illusory. The torches outside formed a dragon. It looked magnificent. Rexton said softly, "Knight, there's only a few dozen miles of God's ruins. There are no hotels here. Tomorrow, after passing the God's ruins, we will arrive at Starry City. The road after that will be much easier to walk." Arn nodded and asked casually, "How much do you know about the God's ruins?" "Not much, but Lorca does know a little about this place." "Why, Knight, are you interested in the God's ruins?" Rexton asked curiously while shouting at Lorca, "Lorca, come over." "I'm a little interested." Lu nodded. "What's wrong?" Lorca heard that Lu wanted to know more about the God's ruins and said with a smile, "This is the city where the ancient gods lived. I really don't know how the ancient gods built such tall buildings. There are countless of them. Even high-level rune masters are unable to reproduce such buildings. There are many unexplainable materials. Every country has such ruins. Legend has it that before the 9 great empires were established, the sages obtained all kinds of ancient runes from these ruins. Legend has it that they were able to find an ancient item from the divine ruins back then. However, it has long since been plundered by others. Now, only on the celestial battlefield is it still possible to find an ancient item." When Lorca started talking about the things that interested him, he felt a little restless. Legend has it that somewhere in the celestial battlefield, there is an ancient language. According to speculation, it should be the runes of another god. However, it is extremely obscure and mysterious. Every stroke is as difficult to decipher as some kind of mark. At first, people were very excited, but later, they discovered that these runes are completely different from the existing runes. These runes are difficult to recognize, learn, and even more difficult to decipher. In the past few thousand years, only a few rune masters have managed to learn a few of them. However, these runes are extremely powerful. Any rune master who is able to master them possesses formidable battle prowess. Previously, one of the 12 sages managed to master a portion of these runes. His battle prowess is unparalleled, and he is ranked first among the 12 sages. Lu, you are from the heavenly battlefield. You should have heard of this before, right? Every stroke seemed to be some kind of rune? Could it be Chinese? In Lu's era, Chinese was known as the most difficult language to learn. Not only was its structure complicated, but the same language also had many different sounds and meanings. It was extremely difficult to learn. However, Chinese had a magical charm, especially the ancient Chinese calligraphy. It was like a painting, with an indescribable beauty. Even though Lu did not know much about Chinese, it did not stop him from admiring it. Lu smiled and replied, "I've heard of it. What are you guys talking about? Hurry up and eat something. We still have to hurry." Just as Lu and the others were talking, Vivian walked over with a smile. "Okay, let's eat something now." Lu walked over and took a look. It was all dried bread and jerky. Then, he drank some water. Lorca said softly, "There's no firewood here. No one brought much. It'll be fine once we reach Star City." "That's right," Rexton said while eating the meat. "There'll be no lack of wood and no lack of people. We'll be able to eat a warm meal when we get there." As he said that, he looked at Lu, who had not made any movements, and asked in a different tone, "Aren't you hungry?" "I'm hungry," Lu smiled and said, "but I want to eat something else." After saying that, he took out pots and pans, grains, oil, and rice noodles, as well as fresh meat and ingredients. Rexton and the others stood rooted to the ground, incomparably shocked. Lu actually had a portable space? One had to know that the runes in a portable space were high-grade runes, extremely rare. Those who were able to comprehend portable space runes were all genius-grade rune masters without exception. They knew that Lu had come from the heavenly battlefield, so he definitely had outstanding talent. But they had never thought that he would be so good. He had even condensed the runes in his personal space. Although the runes in his personal space couldn't be used in battle, they were more precious than ordinary battle runes. Because he could carry many things with him, it was very convenient for him to travel. Moreover, his personal space could store secret items, so he didn't have to worry about people spying on him. Lu's actions stunned Rexton and the others. After a while, they regained their senses and looked at him with even more respect. However, when they accepted that he had the portable space, they did not know whether to laugh or cry. Lu had actually used the portable space to bring food and drinks. This was too willful. How high was the quality of life he required? In their understanding, the portable space created by an ordinary rune master wouldn't be very large. At most, it would be a few square meters. Normally, they would place some precious things or gold coins inside. Lu had actually placed some daily necessities in a limited portable space. This was simply beyond their expectations. They simply couldn't imagine that Lu's personal space was incomparably vast. It was comparable to several palaces put together. Knight, you actually used your personal space to all this? Rexton's face was filled with confusion. This is a rune space. It's not even enough to carry precious things. Yet, you actually used it to carry pots and pans? Was this something that a person shouldn't do? Young Master Knight, you really have high standards for food. Vivian's face was filled with emotion. She had seen many people who had high standards for life. But this was the first time she had seen a person like Lu. Using a rune space to store food? If there was some demon beast's meat, then it would still be fine. Lu had actually stored pots and pans, as well as the food. These things together might not even cost a single gold coin. For something that didn't even cost a single gold coin, they took up so much rune space. Just thinking about it made one break down. Willful, too willful. He completely didn't understand young Master Knight's thoughts. Knight, I don't admire many people, you're definitely one of them. Lorca's face was filled with emotion. To be able to use rune space to store these things, you're definitely the first of the 9 nations. No. You're definitely the first of the human race. Ordinary people are definitely not as willful and carefree as you. If it was an ordinary person, Lorca would definitely think that person was an idiot. However, this person was Knight, he was different. Although he had never fought with him before, Lorca's intuition told him that if he really fought with Knight, he would very likely be beaten up. The last time he had such a feeling was from that evildoer Zoran of the Illumination Empire. How could such a person be a fool? It could only be said that he was an extraordinary person who did extraordinary things. Hearing their words, Lu said casually, "It's mainly Claire. She's still growing. Since I bought her here, I can't let her starve. I still have to wait for her to grow up and take care of me." "Don't worry, young master. I'll definitely take good care of you when I grow up," Claire said with a serious expression. Lu's words made Lorca, Rexton, and the others look at Claire differently. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. This girl really had the luck of 8 lifetimes to meet a good master like Knight. Knight was also true to his word. Servants were like goods. Was it worth paying so much attention to them? Although they couldn't understand, they felt that Knight had a special charm and was very attractive. The other servants looked at Claire with envy and jealousy. Claire didn't care about their eyes at all. She had seen this kind of eyes many times yesterday. She whispered to Lu, "Young master, what should we do if we don't have firewood?" The others were stunned when they heard. That's right, there's no wood. Lorca came to a realization. Not only is there no wood here, there's not even a ripple of water. The terrain of the divine ruins is complicated. Once you get lost, it's very difficult to walk out. You can only follow a fixed path. There's no way to find wood and water. When they said this, the way they looked at Lu became a little strange. "Knight, don't tell me that you brought wood and water." "Did you?" When they heard this, they were about to heave a sigh of relief. Then they heard Lu laugh. "Who said that you can't cook without wood and water?" "Claire, here." Lu looked at her and said casually, "Watch and learn carefully. Once you have learnt these things, you will be the one to do it from now on." "Okay, young master." Claire nodded seriously. The others looked at Lu with their mouths agape. How could you live without wood? However, the next second, the scene that appeared before them turned their world upside down. Lu waved his hand and slowly condensed a large water ball in the air, which then turned into a few small water balls. The grains, rice noodles, ingredients, and meat automatically appeared in the air and were cleaned by the water balls. Then, they were cut by an ice blade formed by a water ball. A large fireball appeared in his hand and kept heating up at the bottom of the pot. F***ck. Lorca felt like he was going crazy. How could there be someone in this world who could do this? He had seen water control and fire control before. But the prerequisite was that there was water and fire around him. Lu had created water and fire out of thin air. This was a method that only mid to high-level rune masters could have. Once this kind of person made a move, Lorca felt that he might die immediately. Lu would have all sorts of methods to kill him in an instant. Was this a monster that had walked out of the heavenly battlefield? This was too exaggerated. Compared to Night, Lorca felt that those from the Shi Jiao Empire who had come out of the heavenly battlefield were simply trash. Of course, they were trash amongst trash. Lu's methods made Lorca feel that Zoran was only second to him. To be together with such a person, it was both a kind of luck and a kind of misfortune. Fortunately, he was able to witness the beginning of a brand new era, the birth of a genius and monster. Unfortunately, his brilliance was too dazzling. Everyone else became his foil. He could clearly see the shock and doubt in Rexton's eyes. He could see the ardent adoration in Vivian's eyes. He could also see the dullness and disbelief in the eyes of the others. The entire place was dead silent. Only Lu was cooking while he taught Claire. These are called noodles. You can't add too much water or they'll turn into a paste. But you can't add too little or it won't take shape. It's noodle soup. This noodle soup. I understand, master. It's a pity I don't know how to make that big water ball and the big fireball. Claire looked very serious. Lu said casually, you can learn this slowly in the future. You just need to learn how to cook first. Young master, I feel like I've learned it. After hearing her words, Lu could not help but laugh. This reminded him of when he had just learned how to cook. Basically, he knew how to cook with his eyes, but in actual practice, it was a miserable sight to behold. The so-called learning, in fact, was useless. Don't talk big. Wait until you can really make it. I'll wait for that day. Before no, everything had to be done carefully in order to assassinate Berg. His nerves had always been in a tense state. Now that he had left the imperial capital, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. He could relax and do what he wanted to do. Don't worry, young master. I can learn things very quickly. Claire felt that she had really learned. Lu smiled. Looking at the complicated expressions of Lorca and the others, he said with a smile, what are you all standing there for? Hurry up and eat the noodles. Otherwise, they won't taste good if they're burnt. Hearing Lu's words, they all hurried over without a worry. Following that, the sound of slurping resounded throughout the god's ruins. No rush, there's plenty of noodles to go round. After stopping Lu's words, Rexton asked curiously as he ate the noodles in large mouthfuls, these are called noodles. That's right, what do you think of them? Delicious, Rexton nodded frantically. Noodles were Chinese food. Lu had always liked Chinese food and had also studied it for a period of time. There was a big pot of noodle soup and quite a lot of mixed noodles. Cooking for more than a dozen people, they finished them all in a short while. Even the noodle soup had been drunk clean. All of them looked happy. Even Claire had eaten 3 big bowls of mixed noodles. Rexton smiled and said, it's my first time eating noodles. I didn't expect anyone to be able to make such a delicious thing with flour. Me too, the others nodded in agreement. They looked satisfied and knowledgeable. Lu could not help but laugh, they were just noodles. But it had to be said, there were really too few kinds of food in this world. A single noodle could make these nobles feel so surprised, but seeing that everyone liked them so much, Lu was very happy. Then, Lorca took out a black iron block and threw it over. This is for you. Lorca, what are you doing? Lu took it, looked at it, and smiled. I'm not a blacksmith. I don't know how to forge. If you want to make weapons, you should think of a way in the Shi Jiao Empire. As he spoke, he threw the iron block back. He knew that Lorca wanted to give this thing to him. The one in his rune space was as big as a table. This fist-sized piece was completely useless to him. This is for you, Lorca smiled and said, you can't be an idiot with your noodles, right? Thank you so much for letting me eat such delicious food in the world. I don't know if I'll be able to pass the assessment on this trip to the Shi Jiao Empire, so this piece of boundary iron is for you. If I can help you create a divine weapon and participate in the assessment, I might be able to get first place. The others looked at Lorca with complicated expressions. This guy was really willing to give it up. This was the boundary iron. It was only produced near the spatial cracks in the heavenly battlefield. The production of boundary iron was extremely low. especially since it was almost extinct. The boundary iron could be engraved with runes, and in places like the heavenly battlefield, where treasures were everywhere, it was still considered a very rare treasure. The reason was very simple. As long as a little boundary was added to the weapon, it would become incomparably sharp and tough. Moreover, it could transmit the power of runes very well. On the heavenly battlefield, it could very well kill any powerful foreign creatures. Lorca could be considered a relatively important noble in the Simon Empire, but he only had this small piece. Who would have thought that he would actually bring it here? With the importance of the boundary iron, even if one had money, it would still be very difficult to buy it. One had to say, Lorca's boldness was really not ordinary. It seemed that he had set his sights on Knight and intended to follow him. What a pity! They had also seen Knight's evilness, but it was a pity that they did not have these treasures. Otherwise, they would have shown their goodwill towards him. Hearing Lorca's words, Lu smiled helplessly and said, Lorca, can't you give me something from the 9 kingdoms? I don't lack things on the battlefield of the heavens. I have many of these things. If you give me these things, you might as well give me a few books to read. Lu was not joking. There were 2 big pieces of boundary iron in his portable space. One was from Charles's vault and was as big as a chair. The other was from Berg's vault, or to be precise, it was the Queen's private vault, which was even bigger. It was as big as a table. Therefore, he really didn't lack boundary iron. No one knew what to say. They all had blank expressions. The things that they had treated as treasures were nothing special to Knight. In fact, they weren't even as important as a few books. They were shocked, but they could understand. After all, Knight had come from the heavenly battlefield. Furthermore, his temperament and talents were obviously not that of an ordinary person. Since that was the case, how could he lack the boundary iron that could be used to make weapons? To him, everything in the 9 nations was new. What he needed was the things outside the heavenly battlefield, not the things that they thought were precious. In different environments, in different positions, the things they valued were different. Understanding Lu's needs would make things much easier. Books. I have a lot. I brought some too. Hearing that Lu wanted to read, all of them quickly ordered their servants to bring the books in their carriages over. They piled them in front of Lu like a small hill. Lu smiled and said, "Haha, that's right. These books are much better than those metal lumps." These were the things he really needed. He urgently needed to understand more information about the rune world. The runes in this world had developed for thousands of years. There must be something unique about them. Although he had the help of the system, the convenience of using runes really required him to constantly study and ponder. Therefore, these books that recorded the information about runes were much more important to him than some treasures. After robbing 3 vaults, he did not lack treasures and cultivation resources. Claire, come with me and move these books into the carriage. Claire nodded, carrying a few books as she walked towards the carriage. Vivian said to her servants, "What are you guys looking at? Quickly come over and help." The others also instructed their servants. In a short while, the books were all moved into the carriage. Fortunately, the carriage was big enough. It was 5 to 6 square meters, and the books didn't take up much space. After eating noodles and giving books, they became much closer to each other. When they were traveling at night, they didn't get into the carriage. Instead, they walked at the back and chatted as they walked. Even Vivian, who used to be very quiet, became more talkative. She knew that Lu liked to listen to things about the 9 nations, so she specifically talked about these things. She spoke with assurance. Legend has it that before the establishment of the 9 empires, at the place where the spatial rift was born, foreign creatures invaded the rune world and wreaked havoc everywhere. It was also at this time that 12 purple crystals appeared. These 12 purple crystals all had extraordinary abilities. At that time, 12 humans obtained the crystals. It was they who used the abilities given by the purple crystals to rebuild the human civilization. The 12 purple crystals were later known as civilization crystals. The 12 humans who owned civilization crystals were the 12 ancient sages. The 12 sages established 12 large tribes to resist the invasion of the alien creatures. However, after the death of the 12 sages, these tribes were too scattered. Each tribe had a different philosophy. When the humans and the alien creatures stopped fighting, they began to have conflicts and started a war to take each other's land. This eventually formed the pattern of the 9 empires. However, the war was so intense that it lasted for more than 100 years. Every tribal leader who later took control of the Crystal Civilization wanted their tribe to become the most powerful tribe in the runic world, so they started a war in an attempt to conquer other tribes. However, the strength of each tribe was almost the same, which led to the war lasting for more than 100 years. Finally, thousands of years ago, the embryonic form of the 9 great empires was formed. Therefore, although the 9 great empires seemed peaceful, in fact, there was a kind of estrangement. This was the contradiction left behind by history. This contradiction made some of the 9 empires stronger, while the weaker ones became weaker. Among the 9 great empires, the Simon Empire was the weakest. Young Master Knight, can you imagine the number of talents in the Simon Empire was not even as many as in the Shi Jiao Empire? For 3 consecutive years, not a single person in the Simon Empire was able to pass the Runic Academy's assessment. The policies of each country were different, and their development was different. This caused the human race to fall into an extremely awkward situation. Even in the heavenly battlefield, although each country jointly withstood the dangers from outer space, they still acted independently and guarded different regions. She sighed softly at the end of her sentence. Her voice was a little sorrowful. Young Master Knight, when you arrive at the Shi Jiao Empire, you will realize that the Simon Empire and the Shi Jiao Empire are like barbaric countries. The Simon Empire is still adhering to the city-state system, and the nobles are incomparably arrogant. They do not treat the commoners as humans at all, and the commoners live in misery and suffering. As for the Simon Empire, there is no hope left. Who can save the Simon Empire? Her words directly pointed out the problems of the Simon Empire and left them in front of everyone. Regardless of whether it was Lorca or Rexton, at this moment, there was only silence. They did not know what to say, nor did they know what to do. I've already decided, Vivian said softly. This time, after going to the Illumination Empire, I won't go back. Even if I have to be an ordinary person there, I don't want to be a noble in the Simon Empire. I don't see any hope for that country anymore. Hearing Vivian's words, Lu sighed in his heart. How desperate was the Simon Empire for her to say such a thing? The Simon Empire had already rotted away from its roots. There was no way to save this country. The Wilson family had been loyal to the Simon Empire for hundreds of years. What had they ended up with? The royal family had always wanted to weaken or even eliminate the Wilson family. The only genius in the Simon Empire, Camia, was forced to marry a prince who had done all sorts of bad things. This was also the royal family's way of restricting the Wilson family. If Earl Wilson had not been seriously injured, the Simon Empire would have been in chaos. The king of the Simon Empire was incompetent, while the Demon Queen had left the Simon Empire with no medicine to cure it. In the entire empire, apart from a few nobles, all of them lived luxuriously, exploiting and abusing the commoners. The most typical example was the group of people led by Berg. The commoners could not even maintain their basic survival, and their lives could not be guaranteed. Such an empire was not something that could be changed by killing a queen. There was only one way to change the situation, and that was to cut off the Simon Empire from its roots, build a new country from the ruins, and reform everything from the system to the economy. Of course, Lu would not say this because there was no need. And there was no power to change everything. It was useless to say anything. What Lu was most concerned about now was the civilization crystal. He had one right now. He had found it in Charles's vault. At that time, he had planned to check the relevant information in the library, but unfortunately, he had not found any records of the civilization crystal. He had not expected Vivian and the others to know about this, but halfway through her conversation, she had changed to the heavy topic of the Simon Empire. Under such an atmosphere, it was not appropriate for him to continue asking. It's getting late. Why don't you rest now? Rexton could not hold on any longer. It was not really late. It was just that Vivian's words were so shocking. All right. Lu nodded. Rexton left first. After Vivian had finished speaking, she fell completely silent. Lorca did not immediately return to his carriage. After a long silence, he said softly, I don't know who can save the Simon Empire. I also don't know how to change these things. I just want to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger will there be a chance. Perhaps when the person who can save the people appears, I can also help do something. This was a completely different concept from Vivian's. One was that she couldn't see any hope and wanted to escape. The other was that although he couldn't see any hope, he still hadn't given up and was waiting for the person who could bring him hope. No one wrong, it was just that they stood at different angles. Young Master Knight, what do you think? Vivian asked softly. Lu's voice was calm. He said casually, I can stand and watch, I can sit and watch, I can laugh and watch, I can curse and watch. In short, I can watch however I want. After all, what does the Simon Empire have to do with me? I don't understand the affairs of the country, but I've heard this saying before, when you are weak, the world laughs at you. Once you become fierce, you will realize that the world treats you with incomparable gentleness. Based on my observations of the Simon Empire over the past few days, the citizens of the Simon Empire are too good-tempered. No matter how others oppress them, they never respond and never think of resisting. Lu's attitude was already very clear. Lorca and Vivian stopped, speechless. They had been taught since a young age that the king was the only master of the Simon Empire, and the royal family was their master. They wanted to unconditionally support the royal family and the king. They wanted to change the Simon Empire, but they had never thought of overthrowing the royal family of the Simon Empire. As he walked slowly, Lu suddenly frowned. He stopped and looked at the servants in the carriage. He found violent fluctuations of runes among the servants. Waves of information were transmitted through the runes. Lu's figure flashed, and then he grabbed a servant from the crowd. This person is transmitting information. Lu looked at her with a cold gaze. Who are you sending a message to? Miss, I didn't. After this female slave had been caught by Lu, she looked flustered as she watched Vivian kowtow and explain. Since she was Vivian's maid, Lu didn't speak anymore. Instead, he quietly looked at Vivian with a cold expression. She frowned and looked at him. Is it useful to deny it? Do you think young Master Knight or I believe you? Or does he have no reason to frame a slave like you? Tell me, who are you sending the message to? Her tone became colder. I really didn't. She tried her best to deny it. Lu said casually, I'll do it. The powerful spiritual power pierced into the servant's mind like a needle, causing her to let out a scream. Lu used his spiritual power to hypnotize her and asked casually, what's your name? I don't have a name. My code name is 10, she said subconsciously. Vivian's face suddenly changed and her eyes were filled with coldness. The meaning of these words was very obvious. The maid actually did not have a name but only a code name. This proved that this maid had been trained by others to lurk by her side. Although Vivian was very angry, she did not show it. She wanted to see how many secrets this female slave had hidden from her. How old are you? 16. After asking 2 questions, Vivian changed the topic. Who is your master? The queen. Hearing this answer, Lorca and Vivian's eyes were filled with shock. Are you sending her a message again? Yes. What message? The slave girl unconsciously said, I've already sent what the lady said just now. At this moment, Lorca and Vivian only had one thought in their hearts, it's over. Once the queen knew, she would definitely send people to hunt them down. Even when they arrived at Star City, she would still send soldiers or killers to hunt them down. These weren't the good-for-nothings that patrolled the streets, but soldiers who were truly good at assassination. They were so powerful that they wouldn't even have the strength to retaliate. Vivian's expression was filled with despair, and her voice was trembling. If I stay, you guys can leave first. After they capture me, they won't care about you anymore. With a thought from Lu, a ray of light flashed past, directly cutting off the maid's neck. At the same time, he also obtained her memory data. After Lu quickly finished reading through it, he casually said, it's no use. Once she makes a move, she will kill us all. She has placed spies in all the noble residences, so it's impossible for them to be on the surface. If anyone survives, they will be witnesses, so it's impossible for her to leave any witnesses behind. Your servants are not reliable anymore. Listen to my plans. Don't take anything. Let the servants draw attention from the back. We'll go around and walk in front. That way, we might have a chance of survival. Just call a few reliable people over and forget about the rest. After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the carriage. Lorca and Vivian looked at Lu's back and exchanged a glance. After calming down their panic, They walked towards their own carriages. They were originally panicking, but because of Lu's words, they had actually calmed down quite a bit. Lu returned to the carriage. As he placed the books and other things into the runic space, he said to Claire, "There might be a battle later. There might be some danger. Are you afraid?" "I'm afraid, but I won't leave, young master," Claire said seriously. Let's go." Lu smiled as he stroked her hair and pulled her down from the carriage. Lu was not afraid, instead, he was a little excited. This was his home ground. To others, this place was like a maze. However, to the structure of a modern city, no one in this world was more familiar than him. In addition, his soul could sense a distance of 3,000 meters. In addition, the night sky was dark. This was the most suitable natural battlefield for him. So many runes had been condensed. The Simon Empire could not let go at all, and he could finally use them without any scruples today. Lu was so excited that his body was trembling slightly. A few people at the front of the convoy walked over. There were only 7 or 8 people. They were all people whom he had met at the Dawn Inn. "Young Master Knight, what happened?" Rexton came over and quickly asked. When Lorca had called him, he knew that things were not that simple. "Tell me on the way." As Lu walked, he explained the matter. "This is how it is. You can choose to stay here. Maybe you will be fine or maybe you will die. You can also come with me. Whether you will live or die is unknown. How do you choose to make a decision?" Lu explained the situation to them. Then, he looked at them indifferently. They were all a little flustered. One of them said softly, "I believe that the Queen will not kill people casually. This matter was caused by Vivian. Why do you want us to bear the responsibility together? I won't go with you. I'm sorry." "Vivian, we have never offended you. Do you want to give everyone an explanation for this matter? Do you really have the heart to see everyone die with you? This matter was caused by you. You should bear the responsibility. We are all innocent. Vivian, you should stay here with us and listen to the Queen's orders." At the true moment of life and death, everyone revealed temperaments that they had never revealed before. Vivian's heart was very sad. She wanted them to live together, but they wanted her to die. Lorca shouted angrily, "Is this what you call human behavior? You're asking Vivian to die. Even if she really withstood all the responsibility, do you think we have a chance to live? You guys really disappoint me." "I'm telling the truth." The man who had spoken earlier retorted loudly, "At this time, it's either her or us. One death is better than everyone else's death. If she dies, we still have a chance to live. If she doesn't die, all of us will die with her. Do you understand?" Lu watched coldly from the side. All of this was within his expectations. As expected, this group of nobles was still selfish. After a while, he opened his mouth. "Interesting." Lu looked at them and said casually, "I've investigated. Among your slaves, there are at least 3 people who are sending messages. It seems that each of your families has been infiltrated by royal spies. You should be very clear that once this kind of thing is exposed, everyone will suffer. The possibility of all of them being silenced is very high. However, you are still holding on to the idea of what if. You're placing your hopes of surviving on the mercy of others. For this, you are willing to push your friends out to die." Lu began to sneer. "He just gave you a chance to live. Is this how you treat your friends?" Lu hated these people from the bottom of his heart. In the face of danger, he had forced his friend to leave. However, this friend had planned to sacrifice himself to protect these people. Lu looked at Rexton and Vivian and shook his head. "This is the person you chose? He doesn't have good taste?" Lu looked at the people who wanted Vivian to stay. He jumped straight to the point and said, "You guys are really funny. Vivian told us about your thoughts from the beginning. She had the idea of sacrificing herself to protect everyone, but I rejected it because we are friends, but you want to push your friends out to die. I used to treat you guys as friends too, but not anymore. For the sake of getting to know each other, I asked Rexton and Vivian to call for you. I gave you a chance to make a choice, a chance to survive. In fact, I could have just left you to die, but I didn't do that. Because I used to treat you as my friends, I didn't expect this result. To be honest, all of you have disappointed me." Lu's gaze turned cold. "From now on, we are no longer friends. You guys stay here, we'll leave." After saying that, he suddenly turned around and left. An indifferent voice came over. If anyone dares to reveal our whereabouts, I'll definitely kill him. Lu's voice was extremely cold, like a block of ice. It made these people feel as if they had been doused with a ball of ice water, and they could not help but shiver. 7 or 8 people came over. Other than Rexton and Vivian, only Lorca followed them. Ha ha ha. This is a noble of the Simon Empire. You've really broadened your horizons. Lorca said casually from the side. Didn't Vivian already tell you that the nobles of the Simon Empire only know how to enjoy themselves and lust after women? But when it comes to life and death, they were extremely weak. These people have no feelings at all. They only care about benefits. I'm afraid that amongst the Simon Empire's nobles, there aren't many righteous people. To be honest, I'm scared to death now, but I know that it's impossible to sit and wait for death. There's still a chance to survive if we risk it. If we don't risk it, there won't even be a chance. I've never been willing to give my life to others. If we can safely avoid this matter with young Master Knight, you'll have to make me a few bowls of noodles to calm down. The matter that was originally quite serious and even a little scary had changed. It had been changed by what Lorca had said. The oppressive atmosphere suddenly improved, and everyone's mood also became a little better. You've convinced me. Rexton squeezed out a smile. It's already so late, and you still want to eat. Ha ha, the noodles are delicious, Lorca muttered. This made Lu laugh. Don't worry, it won't be that easy to die. We will survive, and we will live very well. Then, we can forget about the noodles as we will be able to eat whatever we want. Really? That's great. Lorca laughed excitedly. Vivian's expression was not very good, she was worried. If the Queen sends people over, I'm afraid that it will be the Lion Horse Guards. According to their speed, they will be here in less than an hour. Moreover, they will definitely leak our route. Vivian's voice was trembling. She was the only girl in the group, and she was also the cause of this matter. It was impossible to say that she wasn't nervous, especially now that she was being chased by the Queen of the Simon Empire. She had witnessed many nobles being directly executed by the Queen due to their disagreements with the Queen's methods. Her methods were so cruel that they made people feel afraid. The Lion Horse Guards were some of the most elite soldiers of the Simon Empire. Every soldier was extremely powerful and had been through hundreds of battles. The Lion Horse under them was a kind of monster in the Rune world. It had a brutal personality and extremely strong offensive power. It had a strong lion head but a horse body. Its speed was extremely fast and it could travel thousands of miles in a day. An ordinary person would not be able to control them. Only powerful soldiers could conquer the Lion Horse Guards. If there was another lion horse on the battlefield, the soldiers' combat power would greatly increase. I know. Lu nodded calmly, without any expression on his face. This is the result I want. If they all treat me as a friend and follow me, then it will be difficult to deal with the matter. We will need to take the initiative to deliberately reveal our position. With them around, then the matter will be much easier. They will reveal our tracks and chase after us. Then we can plan ahead. These nobles really didn't let me down. Rexton, Vivian, and Lorca had shocked expressions on their faces. No wonder Lu was so calm. It turned out that all of this was in his plan. They looked at each other and saw an unimaginable shock in their eyes. Young Master Knight was too strong. At the same time, they felt very sad in their hearts. They felt sad for those people. They probably wouldn't have thought that their plans were all within his expectations. These cowardly and incompetent nobles that had chosen to stay would cause young Master Knight's death. But why did they take the initiative to expose themselves? They couldn't understand. They were going to face the most powerful force of the Simon Empire, the Lion Horse Guards. Young Master Knight, why do we have to expose ourselves? No one could figure out Lu's motive. These were the Lion Horse Guards. With their strength, there was no way they could resist them. Once the Lion Horse Guards arrived, they would mercilessly take their lives and behead them. At the thought of this, everyone felt a shadow shrouding their hearts, and their bodies could not help but tremble slightly. Rexton's eyes were filled with shock as he asked Lu, "Aren't we trying to escape? If we reveal our location, how are we going to escape?" "Escape?" Lu smiled. "Who said that we are going to escape? I only let them think that we are escaping." Lu looked at Claire. "Claire, remember what I said? The best hunters usually appear as prey. That's how they attract more prey." "I got it, young master. Although she didn't quite understand what he meant, she would definitely remember it. There was no doubt about it because what the young master said was always right. As for Lorca and the others, their faces were full of confusion. The expressions on their faces were frozen. After a moment, they came back to their senses. It was only at this moment that they realized just how big the gap was between them and Lu. When ordinary people encountered such a situation, they usually only had two choices. The first choice was to think of those who chose to stay. In order to live, these people had no bottom line. They would betray their friends or even their families. They would push the people around them out to die, and then, like a dog, they would wag their tails and beg for mercy in front of these people. As long as they wanted to live, they would do anything. Betraying their friends and ambushing them from behind was not beyond them at all. They had many means and many ideas, but they all had a common goal, which was to live for themselves. The only thing they didn't have was the courage to fight back. The second type of person was like Rexton and the others. They wanted to live too, but they were completely different from the others. They wanted to find a way to live, and wouldn't put their lives in the hands of others. They wouldn't beg others to forgive them. They stuck to their own ideals, running away when they could. When they couldn't run away, they would choose to fight against the people who were chasing them. But Lu was a different kind of person. He had never placed himself on the side of the prey, but on the side of the hunter. In his mind, the other party was the prey. That was why he took the initiative to expose the unknown, waiting for the prey to take the bait, and then kill them. Just the different way of thinking was something most people couldn't comprehend, not to mention the difference in strength. What kind of courage must they have to choose to stay when others were chasing after them? Instead, they would take the initiative to lure them and then think of a way to kill them? They didn't know Lu's strength, but they knew the strength of the Lion Horse Guards. Every Lion Horse Guard soldier was the most elite soldier of the Simon Empire. They were extremely powerful, especially the commander of the Lion Horse Guards. He was a powerful rune master and had experienced countless battles. Every Lion Horse Guard commander was a general that had been trained in the heavenly battlefield. Young Master Knight knew that there was a huge difference in strength between the two sides, yet he still chose to take the initiative to attack and think of a way to counterattack. It was truly shocking. There was even a bit of madness. After Lu had explained the plan, they could clearly feel the difference in their state of mind compared. Their strength could catch up. They could make continuous breakthroughs and become stronger through hard work. But a person's state of mind was very difficult to make up for. They thought that this was a thought habit formed after they were born, or maybe it was the embodiment of a person's values. Just like those who had chosen to push Vivian out, they didn't feel that there was anything wrong with their actions. They even felt that their actions were right, while Lu and the others' actions were completely incomprehensible. In their minds, others weren't important at all. As long as they could live, then everyone else in this world could die, even if that person was a relative or a very good friend. If the Rune World's human race and other dimensional spaces' foreign creatures started a war, then this kind of person would be the most dangerous. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't be able to see their character at all. They would use all sorts of methods to disguise themselves. Then, once the situation was disadvantageous to them, they would be very decisive and abandon their race without hesitation, just so that they could survive. And they didn't feel that there was anything wrong with that. Every race, every era had such people. Even the majority represented an extremely selfish existence. They felt that Lu was another extreme. He could face life and death with his friends, but at the most dangerous time, he would turn the passive situation into a situation where he took the initiative, making himself the master of the crisis. If such a person was a friend, he would be very lucky. Every friend of Lu would feel proud to have a friend like him, and they would be very reliable. But if they were enemies, if they imagined that Lu was targeting them, the consequences would definitely not be good. For a time, they would feel some sympathy for those who had offended Lu. Fortunately, they were friends with Lu. Rexton sighed softly. "It's a good thing that I followed you here. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know how I am to die. Young Master Knight, if I ever make you unhappy in the future, please let me know. I'm a coward." And me, Lorca said with a smile. "Count me in." Vivian also laughed. As they chatted and laughed, their original fear subsided. Lu's confident counterattack plan had made them completely calm down. They were no longer as scared and afraid as they had been in the beginning. Even if they really died here, there was nothing to be afraid of. Emotions could be infectious. If you were being chased and bitten by a wolf and your companion said that the wolf was very fat and would definitely taste good if it was made into wolf meat hot pot. When you saw your companion's calm and confident look, you would subconsciously think, wolf meat really delicious. At this time, you would not be worrying about whether you would be bitten to death by the wolf. Instead, you would think about how to kill the wolf and then have a nice meal of wolf meat hot pot. Now, their thoughts had completely changed. They were thinking about how to counter-kill. "Young Master Knight, what's your plan?" Rexton asked curiously. "We'll do this." Lu roughly explained the plan and said with a smile, "This is my plan. As long as you don't cause any trouble for me and help me protect Claire, it will be fine. Doesn't it feel very simple? This matter isn't that difficult at all." "Ha ha ha, those poor traitors." Lu looked at Rexton and his heart ached for the nobles who had chosen to stay. If it weren't for today's incident, I really wouldn't have known that he was such a person. As expected, when looking at a person, you can't just look at the surface. Instead, you have to look at the appearance of this person in front of a major event. This person's appearance is the most authentic. "Young Master Knight, don't worry. As long as we are alive, nothing will happen to Claire." Lorca and Vivian also smiled and nodded. "It's not difficult to protect Claire. Unless we die, then these soldiers will have to step over our corpses." "But young Master Knight, are you sure you don't want our help? They are the Lion Horse Guards, the most elite cavalry of the Simon Empire. We can't just watch you fight them alone. How about this, we'll find an opportunity to deal with them." Lu smiled and nodded. It could be seen that these people had good hearts. These people were worthy of true friendship. Lu smiled and replied, "Of course." After a while, Lu took them to an abandoned building. He smiled and said, "You guys can hide here for now. This place is out of the way, and it's very difficult to break through. It's good that you guys are here. I'll go and meet these people." After saying that, he walked out. His face was calm, and there was no sign of fear or panic. "Young master, be careful." Little Claire was a little nervous and specifically shouted to him. Lu did not turn his head back. Instead, he gestured behind him to be at ease, and his figure disappeared in an instant. After a while, a lion-like roar sounded in the distance. At the same time, there was a familiar voice, "They can't be too far from here. Those sons of B***tches." Rexton cursed angrily, "They really brought people here. From the sound of it, there are at least 100 Lion Horse Guards." Vivian's expression was a little nervous. As expected, young Master Knight was right. If they wanted to kill me alone, there was no need to send so many. The Queen really wanted to kill all of us. They thought that by sending the Lion Horse Guards, they would be able to live. Ha ha ha, it's hilarious. But these people deserve it, they deserve it. Lorca gritted his teeth and spat on the ground. These scumbags deserve to die. When he thought of those who had betrayed their friends, he was still filled with anger. Such people would be like a sea of fire if they lived. As he spoke, he saw the Lion Horse Guards appear not far away. The soldiers on high horses were emitting a murderous aura. Lu squinted his eyes as he looked at the Lion Horse Guards. He felt his body start to heat up. A wave of hot blood was slowly surging up. Ever since he awakened the runes, he had not had the chance to show off his skills. Even the assassination of Berg had been extremely careful and he had not used his full strength. Hence, he did not know what level he was at. Now that he could finally use his full strength, how could he not be excited? Although he was only a 2-star rune master, he possessed the highest quality rune. Moreover, all the runes he possessed had extremely powerful abilities. Even the most talented rune master in the rune world couldn't dare to guarantee that the runes he condensed would have such qualities and abilities. Therefore, Lu was confident and didn't worry about the Lion Horse's guards in front of him at all. He looked at them as if he was a cat looking at a mouse. Then, he looked at the group of people next to the Lion Horse's guards. These people were the nobles who had betrayed him. "I said that I would kill the person who leaked my tracks. I'm a man of my word. It seems that you didn't take me seriously." Lu's eyes became extremely cold. Since these people wanted to die, it wasn't his fault. "If that's the case, you can all go and die." Lu's voice was extremely cold, resounding throughout the divine ruins. It was as if death was reciting a magic spell before reaping his life. Hearing this sentence, all the nobles who had chosen to betray Lu froze, as if a basin of ice water had been poured on them. Cold air rose from their backs, and they couldn't help but tremble. Their eyes were filled with fear. They did not know Lu's strength, and they had never seen him make a move. However, he was fearless in the face of the lion horse beasts. Just his presence alone was enough to shock them. Furthermore, he was able to threaten to kill them under the lion horse guard's powerful aura. They could tell that Lu was not boasting, but was announcing something. He might really be able to do it. One of the nobles appeared. His expression was distorted as he forcefully suppressed the fear in his heart. He shouted at the lion horse guard's commander, "Sir, it's him. He's the leader of those traitors. Kill him. This person is called Young Master 13, and he's from the heavens battlefield. They're the ones spreading the rumors that are disadvantageous to the Simon Empire. I heard them say that they're going to betray the Empire with my own ears." Before he could finish his sentence, the commander of the lion horse guards sent the noble flying with a slap. What a load of crap. The noble who had shouted that he was going to kill Lu was sent flying and fell to the ground. His face collapsed, and a large amount of blood flowed out, dyeing the ground red. It looked like he wouldn't be able to live much longer. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and confusion. Why? Why did you kill me? I helped you and brought you here to catch these traitors, but you killed me instead of killing those traitors who rebelled against the country. His eyes became more and more blurry, and in the end, he still could not understand why the lion horse guards wanted to attack him. In his final conscious moments, he vaguely recalled a sentence: they were once friends. Friends? Lu had treated them as friends, but he had betrayed them. At this time, his heart was filled with great regret. What he regretted was not his choice. It was his regret that he had made the wrong choice. If he had chosen to follow Lu, then he would most likely not have died. There were no ifs. It was too late. Slowly, his consciousness became more and more blurred. In the end, only a face of unwillingness and regret was left. He was dead but had not been killed by Lu. He had been killed by the people he had brought here. What an ironic ending. The other nobles who had betrayed Lu were stunned. They could not believe what was happening before their eyes. Their eyes were filled with fear. They could not help but take a few steps back. They were in the same position as the one who had died. They could not understand why the lion horse guards would attack them, but they didn't dare to ask. They were also killed by the lion horse guards. Then, the lion horse guards looked at Lu with a serious expression. This youth did not appear to be ordinary. They had never seen such a strange youth in the world. Even the nobles and princes of various countries couldn't compare to this youth. Even though he was wearing ordinary clothes, it still did not hide the domineering, confident, flamboyant, and calm temperament of the young man. It was simply unimaginable that a young man could have so many unique temperaments. Most of the nobles and princes in the Simon Empire at this age were still playing with women, looking like playboys. They were completely incomparable to the young man and were not even worthy of carrying his shoes. Not only was the young man not afraid when he led hundreds of soldiers, but he actually dared to take the initiative to appear. Moreover, from the looks of it, he did not seem to be afraid of them at all. He just stood in front of them and looked at them indifferently. That gaze was as if he was looking at another dead body. The commander felt his hair stand on end when Lu looked at him. However, he was, after all, the commander who had experienced countless wars, big and small. He quickly came back to his senses. He looked at Lu and asked, "Since young master is from the battlefield of the heavens, then he must be very capable. Why do you want to get involved in this mess and stand up for these traitors? They are all traitors who have betrayed the country. If you hand them over, I guarantee that I will definitely not make things difficult for you." Lu shook his head. The corners of his mouth curled up. What if I am not willing? These simple words had indeed provoked the lion horse guard's anger. This was a provocation. Lu's refusal made the lion horse guard's commander furious. If you don't want face, then kill. With a wave of his hand, hundreds of lion horse guards rode their ferocious and terrifying lion horses towards Lu. Their angry roars shook the entire space. If this was someone who was a little cowardly, they would probably be scared to death. The lion horse guards shot out runes from their bodies, flashing with different colors. The colorful runes looked gorgeous. Lu stared at the divine runes in the sky. Green battle runes, red weapon runes, orange vibration runes, and yellow strength runes. Hee, that's it. Lu laughed. These people's runes weren't that good. There wasn't even a high-level rune, even though these people had a strong aura. They looked very fierce and frightening. He estimated that the strength of these lion horse guards was around that of a 2-star rune master. But the quality and ability of the runes weren't good enough. Most of their identities were at the low and middle level. The grade of these runes was too low. Lu was speechless. He had been prepared for a tough fight. But he was disappointed by what he saw. There was another question that left Lu speechless. Would these lion horse guards directly release the runes in their bodies when they fought? After the system's direct query and conversion, Lu was able to recognize the names of these runes. Thus, he could clearly see what runes they had. Based on the names of the runes, he could also guess their abilities. For example, the strength runes could increase the strength and the physical quality of a rune master. It wouldn't be a problem for him to smash a huge rock with one punch. Another example would be the vibration runes, which could continuously shake his entire body and rebound physical attacks. Just based on these, trash, yes, trash, it wasn't that he looked down on them, it wasn't that he was conceited, but these people were really rubbish. He felt that he had wasted his efforts. A matter that was solved in less than a minute. Did he still need to prepare? He could reach orgasm in a minute, and he even had to take off his pants. They had originally thought that it was a ferocious tiger. In the end, it was a group of rats. The AK-47 was already prepared. In the end, a mutt came. Sigh, Lu sighed softly. On the ruins of a high-rise building 700 or 800 meters away, Lorca and the others could not help but sweat for him when they saw the lion horse guards charging towards Lu in an aggressive manner. Rexton's nervous voice trembled a little. Every single one of these lion horse guards is a 2-star rune master, and they possess powerful runes. Moreover, the lion horse guard's commander is even more powerful. Can young Master Knight really hold on? They hid in a corner. Even though they were so far away, they could still feel the killing intent surging towards them. The visual impact brought by the lion horse guards was simply too great. They could not think of how they would be able to withstand it. But even under such circumstances, Lu still did not choose to escape. His tall body faced them, like a towering tree. Nothing could shake his body. The lion horse guards could not do it either. I don't know. Lorca's eyes flashed with fear as he said, but we have to be prepared. If Knight cannot hold on, we will rush over to help. No matter what the outcome is, we cannot let him face danger alone. Okay. Everyone nodded firmly. This matter had nothing to do with Lu to begin with. He could have chosen to leave and even hand them over so that his life wouldn't be in danger. But he had refused and forcefully stood up for them. Originally, they only had some admiration and respect for him, but at this moment, they completely regarded Lu as their best friend. They considered it an honor for them to be able to get to know him. Vivian, you're in charge of taking care of Clairol. If we don't come back, remember to take good care of her. This is what Knight asked before he left. We must do it. Okay. Vivian nodded. She didn't refuse. Although she was struggling in her heart, she couldn't fight with her friends. It was also very important to protect Claire because this was what Lu had entrusted them with. They couldn't let him down. She nervously looked at the situation in the distance. They've already rushed over, why isn't Knight moving? The lion horse guards saw that the wooden horse was about to arrive. The thick hooves of the horse would mercilessly trample on Lu's body. But he still stood there, motionless. What was going on? They were completely dumbfounded. Claire's eyes were filled with anxiety. She spoke to Rexton and the others. I don't need your protection. Quickly go to the master. If the young master dies, I will follow him. If you are here to protect me, you might as well help the young master. He is fighting for you. All right. Vivian looked at Claire with a complicated expression. In the end, he still stood up. Claire was right. If Lu died, Claire would definitely not choose to live alone. She was just a female slave, but because she had met Lu, she had meaning. Once Lu died, she would lose her meaning. Rexton and Lorca also stood up to go over to help. What happened next shocked all of them. Just as these ferocious lion horse guards rushed to about 10 meters away from Lu, he moved. His figure was like lightning. The soil under his feet began to change, turning into metal. It had a metallic luster. With a wave of his hand, many metal blades appeared on the ground and floated around him. In the sky, the air condensed into countless ice blades. The air contained moisture. Lu could control the flow of water, so he could also control the moisture in the air. Die, he lightly emphasized the word. It was like the death sentence. And then, to be precise, there was no and then. After Lu had finished saying this word, these 100+ lion horse guards died. Be it humans or ferocious lion horse guards, they were killed by countless weapons and ice blades in just a few seconds. There were corpses all over the ground and blood flowed like a river. Their corpses were cut into pieces and various organs were piled up into small hills. In the eyes of Rexton and the others, saw the lion horse guards, who seemed extremely powerful, die just like that. They were completely unable to resist. That wasn't right. To be more precise, they didn't resist at all. Before they could even react, they had already died at the hands of Lu. They didn't know how until they died. All they saw was a flash of cold light. Then they saw bodies without heads. Blood splattered everywhere. The broken limbs of the lion horse guards were everywhere. The air was filled with the thick smell of blood. A breeze blew past. Rexter, Lorca, and Vivian felt as if blood had splashed onto their faces. Of course, this was impossible. They were at least tens of meters away from the battlefield, but they all had this illusion. They were all scared. They had never thought that the powerful lion horse guards would be killed by Lu in an instant. They had never thought that rune masters could fight like this. Just how powerful were his runes? They could control the flow of water and metal like this. They could even control the thin moisture in the air and turn the soil into metal. These were all extremely rare runic abilities. Rexton couldn't even speak clearly. This night, he killed over 100 lion horse guards just like that. Yes. Lorca crazily gulped down water. His eyes were filled with terror. If I wasn't hallucinating, Knight killed all the lion horse guards so easily. It took just an instant. My God, this is too terrifying. Moreover, the runes he seems to be using all give extremely rare abilities. He can actually control metal and water flow. Lu's battle was just too fast. It was so fast that before they could react, the battle had already ended. It was simply too terrifying and unimaginable. Am I dreaming? Vivian stared blankly at the battlefield in the distance. At this moment, she didn't know what to say. She discovered that she seemed to have fallen in love with young Master 13 of the Night. From the time he used all sorts of magical runes to make delicious food while teaching Claire. She felt that the young master was different from the others. He was handsome and elegant. He was especially good to his female servant. On the way, she couldn't help but tell him about the human civilization crystal. Then, other than the servant girl leaking the secret, he didn't want to be delayed by his own matters. She was prepared to take responsibility for everything. But he decisively refused. His responsibility and his loyalty to his friends all deeply fascinated her. When he told her his plan to hide from the lion horse guards alone, her love for him reached its peak. When she saw the lion horse guards rushing towards him, her first thought was to rush over to help him. Even if she had to die, she had to be with him. But what happened next overturned her view of the mountain. The first cavalry of the Simon Empire, the most powerful lion horses guards, were all killed by him in an instant. It was as easy as chopping vegetables. She knew that it was time to wake up from her dream. Such a man. She didn't deserve him. His future was destined to be in the vast battlefield of the heavens, not to mention where he originally belonged. Vivian's greatest dream was to survive in the Illumination Empire. She understood that she and the young master were from two different worlds. She looked at Claire in her arms. She was really envious. Just as she was thinking about these thoughts, Lu's voice sounded. He had a bored look on his face as he said, "Can this really be called the strongest cavalry guard in the Simon Empire? The lion horse guards are too weak." He had only used 2 runes to control the metal and water flow to easily kill these lion horse guards. There was no pressure or difficulty at all. How boring. Are these the lion horse guards that you guys keep talking about? I thought they were strong, but was that it? It made me a little nervous. I thought about how to deal with them, but they were nothing. They ended before I even started. Lou turned around elegantly and complained to Vivian and the others with a helpless expression. He wasn't bragging, he was just telling the truth. However, Rexton and the others thought he sounded extremely arrogant. Rexton and the other two stood rooted to the ground. They didn't know what to say. Were the Lion Horse Guards really weak? Don't joke around. These were the strongest cavalry of the Simon Empire. Every single one of them was at least a 2-star rune master. Some of them had even condensed middle-grade runes. These rune masters were extremely powerful. They were definitely not weak. Even if they were placed on the heavenly battlefield, they would still be a powerful force. The Simon Empire was one of the 9 great empires. The Lion Horse Guards were known as the best cavalry of the Simon Empire. It was because Lou was so strong that more than 100 Lion Horse Guards had been killed in an instant. I feel that the title of number 1 in the Shijiao Empire is no longer stable. Rexton gulped frantically, trying to calm his mind. I've heard that there are many young geniuses. I've seen with my own eyes over the years, but I've never seen anything quite like this. Ha ha ha, keep a low profile. Lou laughed. Rexton and the others were exaggerating. It's not me, they are too weak. What I don't understand is, if they want to fight, they should fight. Why do these people display their runes? Is there something wrong with their brains? Isn't it better to hide runes? If they are exposed like this, won't they let others know of their abilities? If they are on guard like this, then what's the point of fighting? There's really something wrong with them. What's there to show off about? Lou thought that these Lion Horse Guards had released the runes from their bodies to show them off. That. Young Master Knight, it's not that they want to show off their runes. It's just that their runes are too low level. This is a normal phenomenon. Only high-level runes would be kept in the depths of a rune master's mind. As for low-level and mid-level runes, they would be automatically released from the body. Vivian softly explained for Lou. There's such a thing? I didn't know about it at all. Lou was stunned for a moment. He hadn't expected there to be such a thing. He had no way of experiencing such a problem. After all, his runes were purple runes from the start. They were top-notch runes, and he even had some golden runes. Their levels were even higher. Lou didn't have any runes that were lower than purple. In addition, he did not have the relevant systems understanding, which was why he was curious about this problem. The moment Lou said this, everyone's gaze focused on him. Their eyes widened as they looked at him in surprise. It can't be. A common thought appeared in their minds. Lou couldn't have all high-grade runes, right? If he did, then he would truly be a monster. Even a 9-star rune master might not be able to guarantee that the runes he condensed were all high-grade runes. The condensation of high-grade runes was extremely rare. They were all stunned. They thought that Lou's runes were all high-grade runes. They would definitely be green runes. If they knew that Lou's runes were all purple runes, or even golden runes, who knew what they would think? When the time came, how shocked would they be? Rexton's face was filled with helplessness. The Lion Horse Guards are really inferior to the young master, he is too strong. I agree, Vivian also echoed. Lou was a little speechless. The Lion Horse Guards weren't weak. He had only used 2 runic abilities, and they weren't even the 2 most destructive ones. Especially the runes that controlled the flow of water. This time, he hadn't chosen to control the blood in the Lion Horse Guards' bodies. Instead, he had chosen to put the moisture in the air. The reason he had done this was that these Lion Horse Guards were all rune makers. When they were on guard, it wouldn't be easy for him to control the blood in their bodies. As for the other more exaggerated abilities, he did not use them. With the casual use of the runes, he had wiped them out. At first, they thought that even if they were weak, they could still hold on for 10 to 20 minutes. In the end, it had only taken an instant. Just like that, are you telling me that they are not strong? It is because I am too strong. Lou really didn't know what to say. Hai pulled Claire over and said casually, forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go and see how the army is doing. If they continued discussing, he was afraid that he would lose himself in the crazy adoration of these people. He had just killed a few useless lions and horses, yet he had become an expert. He absolutely couldn't lose himself in these compliments. The Simon Empire was the weakest of the 9 great empires. The true geniuses were all in the Shijiao Empire. What he said was too powerful, and this weight was definitely not small. The few of them walked along the ancestral path. Thinking of the Runic Academy's assessment, Lu casually asked, "What exactly is the Runic Academy's assessment about?" "The Divine Monument." Expert Lorca replied, "The origin of the Divine Monument is very big." Divine Monument? Lu was stunned for a moment. What was a Divine Monument? He didn't have any memories of this aspect in his mind. Moreover, he hadn't seen any records of the Divine Monument in the books he had read. Lu had instantly resolved the crisis. Their hearts, which were hanging in the air, instantly settled down. They were full of confidence in the safety of the road to the Shijiao Empire. Even their words were much more relaxed. Vivian smiled and asked, "Do you still remember the 12 human ancestors I mentioned? The divine monuments were built by them, and their main purpose was to select geniuses among the human race. In the beginning, they always went to the tribe that needed the divine monument. Later on, the 9 great empires were established, and these divine monuments moved back and forth between the 9 great empires. However, later on, the rune masters felt that it was too troublesome, so the Shijiao Empire established the first Rune Academy. These divine monuments were always placed in the Rune Academy, specifically to select talents for the human race. At that time, the Shijiao Empire was the strongest, which was why they had established the first Rune Academy. Naturally, the divine monuments were placed in the academy. There were a total of 108, which corresponded to the 108 stars in the sky. Each divine monument would produce a different illusion, which measured the student's strength, comprehension, potential, and other aspects. In the history of the human race, there were only 16 people who lit up these 108 divine monuments. The one who used the shortest time was the Ritz Rune King, who was also the most powerful 9-star rune master in the world. The latest one was Ike from the Ice Empire. She took 2 months, but she is still very powerful. In the last 100 years, no one except Ike has been able to light up these divine monuments. Lorca continued, "There is a trend when the geniuses of the human race burst forth. That happens when there are a lot of geniuses in an era, but it soon turns into a period when there is a shortage of geniuses. It is very difficult for geniuses to be born in this period. The reason is very difficult for even the symbol kings to explain. They can only guess that it is caused by the flow of fate. The development of any matter will go through a decline from a climax and then return to a climax. It will fluctuate in this process." Lu didn't care about this at all. What he was most concerned about now was whether the rune school would rely on the pronunciation of those runes. There were more than 1,000,000 rune pronunciations. Just thinking about all those incorrect pronunciations gave him a headache. Is the pronunciation part of the entrance examination for the rune school? Hearing Lu's words, the 3 of them were stunned. Rune pronunciation? Wasn't that something that was only tested in primary and junior high schools? No. Rexton said speechlessly, "We're talking about the entrance to the rune school. How can it be tested on questions like rune pronunciation? It would be far too easy. I don't dare to say that I can still remember 700,000 to 800,000 rune pronunciation sounds. 700,000 to 800,000 pronunciation sounds, and you're so smug? I know 1,000,000. Lorca's face was filled with pride. God knows how much pain and suffering he had suffered when his father had forced him to learn the pronunciation of runes. Vivian smiled and said, "Those are all basic things. Mastering the pronunciation of runes is something that every rune master has to do. Although I'm not some genius rune master, I mastered the pronunciation of over 1,000,000 runes when I was 10 years old." Lu was speechless. This was what a ruthless person was like. When he thought about the pronunciation of over 1,000,000 runes, his scalp went numb. He didn't expect that this was only the basics. Amazing. Lu gave them a thumbs up. "I don't believe any of this. It's fine that they don't test the pronunciation. I'm relieved to hear that you guys don't test it. You guys are really amazing. You can memorize more than 1,000,000 rune pronunciations. Really, you're better than me." As he spoke, his face was filled with admiration. Lu was serious and did not lie. As for Rexton and the other 2, they were speechless. They really had to hand it to this 13th young master. You say he's not strong. The runes that he condensed seemed to be top-notch. His combat ability was even more terrifying. Even the lion horse guards were easily killed by him. But if you said that he was strong, then he said that he hadn't even completely grasped the pronunciation of the runes. It was like a mystery. They were increasingly unable to understand Lu. Young Master Knight, are you serious? Rexton didn't dare to believe it and asked another question. Over 1,000,000 rune pronunciation, you really haven't grasped it? It's true, I'm not lying to you. Lu spread his hands. They walked as they spoke. At this moment, the smell of blood hit them. All the people in the dozens of carriages, whether they were the queen's people, servants, or nobles, had been killed. The blood had dyed the ground red. Under the morning glow, it was like hell. Let's go. Claire covered her eyes and turned around to leave. Ugh. Lorca, Rexton, and Vivian started vomiting. When Lu had killed the lion horse guards, they had been dozens of meters away. Moreover, the sky was still quite dark at that time. It was only when Lu moved that they could only see that the lion horse guards were dead. However, they could not see the actual bloody scene, therefore, they did not feel anything. However, it was different now. It was daybreak, and the light was very clear. Moreover, they walked directly into the pile of corpses, so they could see all the details clearly. The three of them had never seen blood or people that had been killed before. When they saw such a scene, they immediately broke down. In addition, there was a strong smell of blood, and the remains of limbs and internal organs were everywhere. How could they withstand it? Seeing this, Lu waved his hand. The corpses and carriages were set ablaze. Under the raging fire, they were burned to ashes. In the end, Vivian washed everything with water. The ground was clean as if nothing had happened. But they still hadn't recovered from their shock. Even after they had traveled 7 or 8 miles, their faces were still pale and bloodless. You haven't seen blood before? Lu had put it mildly, but in reality, he meant to ask them if they had killed anyone. Then, he casually comforted them, it's okay, you'll get used to it. There was no need to comfort them about such things. They would get used to it after seeing it many times. People adapted very quickly. When he had first killed someone, he had not been used to it. Fortunately, he was in an absolutely calm situation at that time. Moreover, he had a motive. From Kelt, Berg, those trash nobles, to the lion horse guards just now, he was already completely used to it. His heart did not waver at all. This did not mean that he was a cold-blooded, dark, and murderous person in his heart. He was only killing those who deserved to be killed. Killing these pieces of trash was to rid the world of evil. This was a good thing. Even if he did not think that he was a good person, he did not mind being a good person occasionally. It's strange, Rexton said softly, it's not that I've never seen dead people. I've seen many people in the southern district, but I've never vomited before. But this time, I can't help it. That's normal. Lu's voice was calm. Some people like to eat meat, but it feels very cruel to see a chicken being killed. What you're afraid of is not the dead, but the blood. That's why I said that you'll get used to it eventually, because you'll definitely face more such situations in the future. You'll get used to it. After he finished speaking, he brought over several of the corpses. The pursuit will not stop. This is just the beginning. We have to kill our way out of the Simon Empire from here. You have to learn to face the blood. It is not okay to vomit when you see dead bodies. Lu spoke calmly. He even covered Claire's eyes. Don't look at them, you're still young. Rexton and the others were speechless. Wasn't the difference in treatment too great? They didn't want to look at it either, nor did they want to get used to it. The three of them complained helplessly in their hearts. But they also knew that what Knight said was right. They had to get used to this kind of thing as soon as possible. They couldn't just vomit at the sight of these dead bodies. Otherwise, they wouldn't be of any use other than dragging Knight down with them. Most importantly, they might not even be able to protect Claire. That couldn't be forgiven. So they summoned up their courage and decided to give it a try. Well, the result was still the same. They vomited again. But this time, it was much faster than the first time. After trying again and again, they could finally face the mutilated corpses. They were no longer as panicked about the bloody scene. However, Lu's actions had made them completely doubt their lives. The shadow in their hearts had not yet passed, but Lu had started preparing food again. Today, let's eat steak. This is good stuff. Please, don't, I can't eat anything now. Don't spoil the good stuff. Oh my God, you've gone too far. Although they were hungry, They couldn't eat anything in their current state. They didn't have any appetite at all, but after a moment, they smelled the tempting aroma of meat. Rexton and the others had confused looks on their faces as they clenched their fists. This was simply too cruel. They felt like they were eating, but as soon as they stopped, they would think of the scene of bodies scattered all over the ground. They would instantly feel nauseous. Although they would not vomit, the nauseating feeling still lingered. Now, Lou and Claire were eating the grilled steak directly in front of them. For a foodie like Lorca, it was undoubtedly a form of torture, especially when he saw Claire eating so well. He looked at Lou with a face full of resentment. "Lou, please be human. I really can't stand it anymore." "You can." Lou raised his eyebrows. "If I don't eat, I won't have the strength to hurry on my way, and I won't have the strength to kill the enemy. How can I trust you guys with Claire? It's a process of adaptation. I'll give you guys one day. We won't leave today. We'll just stay here. There's no rush. We'll wait for you guys to get used to it." There were two reasons why he stayed there. First, it was to let Rexton and the others get used to the bloody massacre. Second, it was to kill as many people as possible after this assassination. Kill as many people as possible. He would kill until the Queen didn't dare to send anyone else. If he didn't kill more people, it would be very difficult to completely eliminate the hostility in his heart. After the experiences in the Simon Empire these past few days, he had been suppressing a monstrous rage in his heart. It would be best if all the pursuers came to the ruins of God. It would be easier to settle this once and for all. At first, Lou still had some scruples, but after hearing what Vivian had said, that the 9 great empires all had conflicts with each other, he had no scruples. In any case, as long as he toppled the Shijiao Empire, no matter what he did, the people of the Simon Empire couldn't do anything to him. Then what was there to be afraid of? Just do it. How would the people of the Simon Empire dare to put their hands on the Shijiao Empire? Even if the royal family had the guts, they would not dare to offend the Shijiao Empire. As for Lou, he hoped to have a few more decent opponents. He did not bother to think of the Lion Horse Guards. He even felt like dozing off. But he had to wait. After the battle had ended, he had used his fate rune. He had seen the yellow mist above his head. This was good luck. It meant that there wasn't any danger here for the time being. At the very least, no one would appear for the next few hours. He knew that this place was very safe now. That was why he had spoken to Rexton and the others, allowing them to look at the corpses here and stimulate their nerves. It was all to intentionally put pressure on them. A person would only truly grow into a powerful warrior after experiencing life and death and seeing fresh blood. After experiencing these things, Lou had truly treated them as friends. However, if they were afraid of a corpse, then it was simply impossible for the 3 of them to participate in the Rune School's assessment. The Rune School didn't want cowardly people. Moreover, there wasn't much time left for the assessment. He had to use this method to make them change their mindset as soon as possible. What if they passed the assessment? If that was the case, he would have an acquaintance there. However, these things couldn't be said explicitly, because they might not have any effect. A person's potential was often forced out under extreme circumstances. "Lou, I was wrong about you. You're a very bad person." In the end, Lorca couldn't resist it. For a foodie, delicacies were absolutely not to be left alone. In this world, there were only 2 things that could not be left alone, and that was good food and beautiful women. Lorca sat next to Lou in a carefree manner. He picked up a piece of fragrant, roasted steak and took a bite. His eyes instantly widened. He had never eaten such a delicious steak before. The fresh and fragrant juice filled his mouth. It was cooked perfectly. It was chewy and tender. There was also a kind of sweetness. Lou looked at the shocked Lorca and chuckled. "Delicious, right?" This steak had been cooked using his unique method, and he even added a bit of natural honey. "Delicious, delicious." Lorca did not even raise his head. He answered vaguely and quickly chewed the steak in his hand. This was too delicious. It was really fragrant. Hearing Lorca's words, Rexton and Vivian's eyes lit up as well. They had been starving for a long time. Now that they saw Lorca eating like this, their hearts wavered. Especially when they thought of the delicious noodles that Lou had cooked before. They couldn't help it. Soon, Rexton and Vivian started eating too. They were shocked by Lou's cooking skills again. Not only was Lou strong in combat, but his cooking skills were also superb. They were all nobles of the Simon Empire and had eaten all kinds of delicious food, but now they felt that just been food to fill their stomachs. Lu was the real chef. He produced delicacies that could conquer people's taste buds and hearts. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Lu mercilessly let them continue to look at the dead bodies. Lorca and the others, who were still not used to it, were obviously getting much better. Even now they had eaten their fill, they did not vomit at the sight of a bloody corpse. Although their faces were still a little pale, they were much better. After a few hours, another wave of people came. And then another. From morning to evening, a total of 3 waves of people appeared. There were dozens of people. Lu killed them easily and deliberately shattered the corpses of these enemies. There were broken pieces of flesh and bones everywhere, allowing them to get used to it again. Rexton and the others, after being forced to experience so many bloody massacres, finally got used to it. They just watched as the people were killed and then ate. There was no reaction at all. Even the only girl in the team, Vivian, was used to it. Lu was very satisfied. He chuckled and said, "Tomorrow, we'll have to speed up and leave this place." "That's great." Rexton squeezed out a smile. "You might not believe it, but one of the reasons I was able to get used to it so quickly was because I wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. I'm really not used to the ruins of God at all." "Me neither." Vivian smiled. "But I'm already used to it now. It seems like my adaptability is quite strong. It's only been a day since yesterday, and I feel like I've undergone a huge change. It's a very magical feeling. This feeling is especially good." Seeing them like this, he felt happy for them from the bottom of his heart. The day's wait had not been wasted. Just as he was about to speak, he sensed that 2 carriages were rushing over from afar. He was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, "There are people coming again. They're actually coming by carriage. Is there finally a big shot coming? We've not waited here in vain. I hope they're here to kill us." After saying that, he stood up. His clear eyes shone, burning with fighting spirit as he looked into the distance with anticipation. Although he felt that the person who was on their way might not be ordinary, because the 2 carriages could actually block his spiritual perception. "Of course they are. Hurry up," Rexton mumbled, "we're almost done brewing tea." Of the 3 of them, he was the fastest to adapt. At first, he had vomited constantly, but now he leisurely brewed tea in the face of being hunted down. The environment had changed. "One more person. I can't delay it. When I come back, this tea will definitely still be warm." Lu smiled. At dusk, the setting sun was like blood. It dyed the earth red. The 2 carriages finally appeared in the distance. First, a small dot appeared in Lu's field of vision, and soon they were close. When the carriage was about 100 meters away from them, Lu shouted loudly, "The person you want to kill is here." His voice spread out and resounded throughout the whole area. This sentence could be heard within a radius of several hundred meters. The steed pulling the carriage was suddenly frightened by this sound. It immediately lost control and neighed a few times. "Stop my carriage, are you courting death?" A girl's delicate shout came out from the carriage. Following that, a girl wearing a veil instantly arrived within 10 meters of Lu. This speed was practically equivalent to teleportation. Even Lu was shocked. He had not even blinked his eyes when this girl had already arrived by his side. He frowned and braced himself. When the girl rushed into Lu's range, her speed finally slowed down. This was the activation of Lu's time rune. One of the abilities of the time rune was to reduce the opponent's speed by 10 times. But even so, her speed was still astonishingly fast. Within a few seconds, she had arrived in front of Lu from a distance of 10 meters. This was the fastest person Lu had met since he had transmigrated. Other than the mysterious person with powerful spiritual power whom he had met at Earl Wilson's mansion, she was the most powerful person. She was able to reach within 1 meter of him in less than a few seconds, even though her speed was 10 times slower. This speed was too terrifying. What a fast speed. Although Lu's expression was solemn, this girl made him pay a little attention to her, but only a tiny bit. He sighed softly. This girl was really strong. From the moment she had launched her attack to when she was in front of him, it hadn't even been 10 seconds. If it was anyone else, they would have already been killed. With his opponent's speed, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to react in time even if her head was chopped off. But she had made a fatal mistake. She had chosen the wrong opponent. Her opponent was Lu.